Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Japanese tier 8 heavy tank, the Orochi Oni. Now this is a tank that's not currently on the Tankopedia when I'm doing this video, so we're going to go through the stats on the news article. It can be a fun tank. If you've played the Japanese heavies, and you've played the Oni, and you've played the Oho, you're going to know exactly how this handles. It's a premium version of the Oni, but up-tiered. And all the stats are up-tiered to fit it, especially the armour. I know that's a worry that you might think of and go, oh no, the Oni at tier 8 is going to get butchered. Well, the armour's been buffed, and trust me, the armour works. But the problem is, it's the same as every other Japanese heavy. So it's a buyer's beware that you know exactly what you're getting from this tank. This tank is slow. It's fat. Its armour works really, really well, until people press A and load premium. As soon as they load premium, you get slapped up really easily. Add to that artillery, you're on arty magnet, and arty is just going to go artillery, smash, 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 smash. And that's exactly what it's going to do to you. So the buyer's beware is, if you don't like Japanese heavy tanks, and you don't like the way they play, you don't like derping about in them, you're not going to like this tank. And don't buy it, okay? That is my beware. But if you're like me, and you like derp guns, and you sort of enjoy, you can enjoy the Japanese heavies, buy it, because you will probably enjoy it. Because it is slow, it is cumbersome, but it can be epic memes with the derp gun. The 10cm gun is also really, really solid, and it's probably the best gun on the tank. But derp memes, derp is love, derp is life. I have enjoyed playing it, because you can just have a laugh with it, and you don't have to take it too seriously. But yeah, it's a Japanese heavy, so if you don't like Japanese heavies, this tank is definitely not for you. So let's go through the stats of the Orochi Oni, which you're seeing here on these screenshots. It's got a really nice skin as well for the Oni, essentially. It's pretty damn nice. So, in terms of the matchmaking, yep, it does see tier 10s. You can actually bounce about 250, 260 pen off of your upper plate, which means that most tier 10s actually do kind of struggle to pen you in the upper or lower plate. But as soon as they switch to heat or APC, the premium APCR, they just absolutely butcher you, and that is a really unfortunate thing. You got 20% XP bonus earn, and you got a low bonus earn of 35% silver. Now it does seem to make credits decently, because if you're using the derp gun, you are firing HE, so you're just derping away, and that's definitely nice, because you don't have to pen things, so you're just generally doing quite a lot of damage for people with HE and earning a decent amount of silver from it. But that is a low silver bonus earn, so don't guarantee that this is going to make you a lot of credits. You got 1600 HP, which is solid for a heavy tank at tier 8, and it means that most of the time you can take some of the clips of autoloaders, which is decent. It's just okay. It's okay for a super heavy tank. You got 1200 horsepower, which leads to 11.8 horsepower per ton, or power to weight ratio, which means that you hit this 25 kilometers an hour at top speed. You actually hit it alright, actually. It doesn't feel that sluggish. It's just a slow top speed, essentially, is what you feel with this Orochi. You do hit the 25 kilometers an hour quite easily. You just sort of trundle along at it, just like you would in the Oni or the Oho. It's exactly the same. Like I say, it feels exactly the same as the Oho or the Oni. If you've played those tanks, you will know what this tank feels like to play, and you can just get a premium derp cannon. It's got a 10 kilometers an hour reverse speed, which is slow, but it is a super heavy tank, so it tends to be quite slow at reversing. It's got an 18 degrees a second hull traverse speed, which is fairly slow again, but it's decent for a super heavy tank. You can make that better with traction system or with clutch braking if you don't like it. You've got 360 meters view range, which is pretty poor for tier 8 heavies. They tend to seem to have like 370, 380, 390, view range. But with coated optics and with situational awareness, you can get that up to a decent number. I think it's like 460 meters view range, which is fine. It means you're generally not going to get outspotted too much. You're going to be able to spot most of the tanks that spot you. And then a signal range, which is a thing. So you got the primary turret, because this does have the multi-gun system, with the 10cm gun, which is, like I say, probably the most consistent and best tank gun on this tank, but it's not as much fun as the derp gun. So it's down to your personal preference. You got 19 degrees a second traverse speed on the turret, which is decent. You've got a 10 degrees a second gun depression. 10 degrees a second? You've got 10 degrees of gun depression, I should say. You've also got 20 degrees of elevation. Now, 10 degrees of gun depression is a little caveat to that. You have that over the side of the tank. You have that to the left and the right of the boobies on the front of the tank. The big turrets on the front do constrict your gun depression, so just be aware of that. If you're coming round corners and that, you're best to aim slightly over to the left or slightly over to the right. The turret goes all the way round. Fully traversable turret. Now, with this 10cm gun, you've got 215 penetration on your AP rounds and 253 on the premium round, which is an APCR, which is what it says in the game. But if it's just, the gun is exactly the same as what you get on the OHO and on the Oni before it, which is actually a second round of AP. But for some reason, since 6.0, they've just made it so that it differentiates between AP and, well, between standard and premium round, because they got rid of having the individual icons for different rounds. And yeah, so that's actually a second round of AP, but it says it's APCR. Weird, but it is what it is. But 253 pen of APCR pen is decent. And the problem is that you will struggle to pen a fair few tier 10 heavies. And this is where because realistically, most tanks you face at tier 8, you're going to be able to pen with 215 pen. And if you struggle, you can just load the premium. And that's fine. This gun is fine for facing your own tier. And with 330 alpha, a 2.6 second aim time, and 0.39 accuracy, it's really consistent. It's just when you start to face those tier 10s, you get a lot of awkward bounces with this gun, and obviously they don't really feel that awkward shooting you, which is why I always said the 15cm howitzer is always the nicer option, because you don't have to overexpose for too long, you don't have to aim, you just derp and have fun. This gun, you have to make sure that you get those shots aimed in, you slap those shots in, and yeah, you can't really make that accuracy too much better. You can make it better with the crew skills, obviously, but this tank isn't able to fit vertical stabilizers, so you can't make your accuracy 20% better with that. For some reason, it can't fit vertical stabs. I don't know why. You got 6.67 round a minute rate of fire, which is really good for 330 alpha at tier 8. You got a 9-second reload, which you get down to a near 7 seconds-ish, somewhere around there. You'll see when we get to the replays. And that, like I say, it's really consistent. It dishes out damage so quickly. And it's a high caliber as well, which means generally you tend to black people's tracks off first time. And 2.2k base DPM is solid. Like I say, this gun is really consistent and is probably the best gun on the tank. It's just not a derp gun. That's the best way to put it. It's just not the derp gun. You've got 916 pen on the 916 shell velocity, sorry, on the AP, and the premium AP, which is labeled as APCR, is also the same velocity, which isn't the quickest, but it's also not the slowest, so it's decent for what it is. Now we're on to the 15cm howitzer, so the derp gun. Like I say, same gun depression stuff, same turret traverse, but you've got 121 pen on the AP rounds, 150 pen on the heat rounds, and 75 pen on the HE. Now, you could use these heat rounds to decent effect against more lightly armoured targets that you couldn't pen with the HE, that you need to finish off. But I've tended to just load full HE nowadays, well, further on into the games that I was playing, because I was having accidents where I was loading these heat rounds when I didn't want to or didn't need to when using the multi-gun system, because just it was slightly awkward in that way, and then it was costing me kills and things like that. So I just started disregarded these two rounds and just went full derp, fire full HE. You've got 700 damage on the AP and the heat rounds, and 910 on the HE. Just means, like every other derp gun, when you pen people, it's filthy and funny and hilarious. Penned a Dreadnought earlier on for 950, and it was just like, oh no, that poor guy. You got a 3.6 second aim time, which is long. That's long. Okay, that's a long aim time. And it's a derp gun, so you expect it to be a long aim time, right? You can negate that with stuff like, you know, GLD and that, and food and Born Leader. That'll make it slightly better. I think I started to run the GLD at some point, and it gets it down to like 2.8 second aim time, which is pretty decent for a derp gun. You know, make it as good as possible. You've got 0.54 accuracy, which is typical of a derp gun. Poor, but it's a derp gun, so you've got to expect it. The 3.64 round a minute rate of fire, which is a 16.5 second reload, which is actually pretty quick for a derp gun. I think you actually fire slightly quicker in this tank than you do the Ho-Ho. We'll see when we get to the garage part. We'll have a look. We'll have a quick look between the difference between the Ho-Ho and the Oni in terms of its firing on the derp. But that seems pretty decent to me in terms of its reload. It means you're derping people very quickly, which is always cool. You got 500 meters a second shell velocity on the AP and the heat, and HE is 540 meters a second, which is derp gun levels decent. Now you do have the secondary turrets on this Oni, which can actually be fairly useful because it's got decent penetration on its premium round. So they've got 30 degrees a second traverse speed, which is really quick. They've actually got 15 degrees of gun depression, which means if anything gets in front of you, you can just depress the guns really easily. Good elevation. The yaw limits, yeah, so they are very limited in the way they turn because there's two of them right next to each other, and obviously they're on the front of the tank, so they're going to be limited by side to side, so just bear that in mind. And it can bug out if you lock on to a tank with the left-hand one, and then the right-hand one's trying to point it. It starts to point off in the opposite direction for some reason, bugs out, it's really annoying. 81 penetration is pathetic. You're just never going to use 81 pen ever, so you're best to just load the full premium on these 47mm guns, because that 122 pen you are going to be able to use. And there's a lot of lightly armoured tanks that you will absolutely butcher with this. There was a Leopard that I faced where I managed to derp him for like 600, something like that, and then just started spamming the multi-turrets and just keep firing them constantly while I was reloading. I managed to take him down a lot on his hit points. It's really effective for that sort of thing. You can actually see that again in the replay. 2.3 second aim time is long, but it's okay because you never really use it too much to aim like that. You got 0.42 accuracy as well, which ain't the best, but most of the time you're going to be very, very close range to use these cannons. And it's a 4-second reload, which is like nearly just less than 3 seconds with all the crew skills and stuff like that. These secondary guns on this Oni are actually pretty useful for facing the weakly armoured tanks, and you really can just, in between your derp shots, absolutely wreck people. And they are pretty useful. In terms of the price of the Orochi, it's actually 8.5k base bundle, which is already out, which is really nice. It's really nice that they've actually put the base bundles out already. And yeah, the price is okay. But just bear in mind that the Orochi Oni is a Japanese heavy, and it is the buyers beware of. If you kind of like the derpy, big Japanese super heavies, you will like this tank, like I kind of like the tank, in a way. It's frustrating because it's slow, it's an arty magnet, and premium rounds absolutely butcher it. But it can have its moments. I don't think it's completely trash. I think it's very usable in a lot of situations, especially when you're top tier. When you're top tier, it's fantastic, and there's no artillery. But it can struggle in a lot of other situations. It's just down to you guys, to how you feel with this kind of tank. So let's get over to the garage, where we can see the Orochi Oni in the garage, see what we've got some of the stats down to, compare it a little bit to the Oni or the Oho as well, and see what the difference is between the tier 8 Oni, this Orochi, and the tier 7 Oni. So you'll see what the difference is in the armour, essentially. So yeah, the skin on the Orochi is actually really nice. I really like the way it looks. It's a solid skin for this tank, and it can be a lot of fun. And look at that face. You gotta love that face when it comes looking at you. You just know it's gonna start derping you. Googly eyes, man. They are the best. So in terms of equipment, I've been running rammer, GLD, and optics because I want to make my view range as good as possible. As you see, we've got the vision range to 461. I've got the GLD because the aim time was fairly long and I wanted to make the aim time better. And a rammer because, well, just make the derp gun fire quicker. That's what I want. But I mean, you could think, oh, you know what, I'm a derp gun, right? I don't want to be relying on my DPM. So, you know what, actually, I'm going to remove the rammer and put something else on. Because screw DPM when you're a derp gun, you're just wanting to fire as quickly as possible. Or you could drop the GLD because you think, you know what, I'm a derp gun. Don't need the aim time. You could run vents instead, make your accuracy, because obviously this doesn't run GLD, not GLD, it doesn't run vert stabs for some reason. Who knows why. So you might want to make your accuracy even better, well, as much as you can better with the vents. Or you could run the traction system to get the better track traverse. And for speed boost, it's pointless because you only get literally like two extra kilometers an hour. You go from 25 to 27, which is still exceptionally slow and pointless. You may as well make everything else better. Or you could meme it up and reduce people's damage by 10%, have advanced armor and have armor angling the perk on your crew as well, and then have that sort of meme. Or just make your engine power better. There's lots of things. Or you could run the heat rounds as well, and then run advanced reload and swap between the heat and the HE as much as you want. It's completely up to you, but that's just the base setup that I run, just to make the aim time better, the view range better, and the DPM better, essentially. And that's just my ammo setups. So yeah, I mean, as you can see with the armor on the Orochi, it has had a lot of love from the Oni. So let's have a quick look at the Oni's profile look. 200 millimeters on the front of the turret, 175 on the upper plate and on the droids, with 150 on the sides of those turrets and the cheeks. That if they put that armor profile in at tier 8, it would have been absolutely butchered. But they've buffed it a lot, and it's got 250 on that turret front, 200 pen on the sides of the turret as well, and on the droids on the front and on the cheeks. And as you see, the upper plate and lower plate is 230, which, if people shoot you in this fat lower plate, which a lot of people have been, they will bounce a good amount. If you are shooting at this tank, shoot the droids, especially when they turn to face other people and they turn slightly sideways on, because obviously they're moving because it's a multi-turret system. You will get easier pens on those areas. Shoot there. But if people shoot this upper plate, they do bounce a lot, and this armor is absolutely solid. Like I say, the armor on this tank is really, really good up until the point that people just press A and fire premium. Just like every other Japanese heavy. It's the typical Japanese heavy problem. And if you look at it compared to the Oho in terms of its armor as well, again, 250 on that turret front, 200 on the sides of its turret. It's just the droids are slightly better, but the upper plate and lower plate are exactly the same. They've tried to model it as much as they can on the Oho to make it sort of a competitive difference. So yeah, in terms of the aim time, look, yeah, it's down to 2.92, sorry, with the GLD. That's why I've run the GLD, because I wanted it below 3-second aim time, and that really helps when we're getting the shots in, and not having to sit there for longer to aim and expose myself for longer to get the shots in. So that's why I run that. 0.44 accuracy as well with the setup we've got. And a 12.31 rate of fire. 12.31 seconds reload for the HE on this tank is hilarious. It reloads really quickly for a derp gun. And compared to the Oho, which is more accurate because you can fit vert stabs, you got a 14.09 second rate of fire. So you can see that they've made it's derpier because you can't fit vert stabs, but it fires quicker. So there's that trade-off, essentially. In terms of a crew for the Orochi, I've been running the same crew that I run in my Type 5, which is my Weeb crew. Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Track Mechanic, Rapid Aim. I've been running Rapid Aim because the turret traverse is slow, and I just wanted to make it better. I couldn't be bothered to change the crew because I want to make my turret traverse better in my Type 4 and my Type 5 Heavy. So that's why I run Rapid Aim, but you could quite easily change that out and run Clutch Braking to make your track traverse better. Off-road driving to help you out, be able to get, to that top speed if you wanted to. Or run firefighting if you feel like you get set on fire too much. Or armor angling, like I say, to reduce the damage coming in. Or you could just run general mechanic and make it so your track repair is really quick and everything gets repaired as quickly as possible because you're expecting to take hits with this tank. Or safe stowage if you feel like you get ammo racked too much. I said there's a lot of options you can do. It's totally up to you. I just wanted to make the turret traverse better, so that's why I ran that on the Orochi. So yeah, on the whole, the Orochi is a pretty solid Japanese heavy tank. It has its moments where it can be really fun, and it has a lot of moments where it's really slow, it's not a magnet, and it gets slapped up by premium rounds, just like every other typical Japanese heavy tank. So just bear that in mind. That's a buyer's beware. If you know what the Japanese heavy tanks are like and you've played them and you don't like them, don't touch this tank with a 10-foot barge pole. But if you like the Japanese heavies and you think you can have fun with the derp gun, buy this tank and you will have a great time, essentially. Oh, I did forget to actually look at the 10cm gun as well and see what we get that down to. Let's have a quick look at that before I send you over to the replays. I've mucked up here tremendously. There we go. So with that, we've got the aim time down to 2.1 with the GLD. The accuracy is at 0.32, which isn't too bad. And it's actually a 6.71 second rate of fire, which is really, really good for 330 alpha at tier 8. It's fantastic alpha. It's fantastic rate of fire. This gun is definitely the best gun to use if you like consistency. But Dota gun's more fun. Is what it is. So as always, everybody, I'm going to send you over to the replays. I babbled on for far too long. I'm going to send you over to the replays where you can go see what this tank feels like with the 10cm gun and with the dope guns. So, I'll see you at the replays. So here we are in the first replay, which is on Highway. And we are using the derp gun. We're using the 15cm howitzer. And this was probably one of the more average games that I had in the tank. Generally, most of my games were like this, where it was kind of like get to a good brawl, do a bit of damage, and then the rest of the fight is happening somewhere else. Japanese heavy things, right? That's what these tanks are. That's what this tank is. It's a Japanese super heavy. You get to your position, you fight, and then if the fight's happening somewhere else, well, you're just done, right? And it is good at scrapping when you do get to that position to have a good brawl. And obviously, with Highway, the town is a good place for it. And yeah, this 15cm howitzer is the more fun gun to use because you can get some great memey shots off and stuff like that, and you don't really have to aim and you don't have to pen, so you can just sort of see a tank and shoot it and you'll do damage most of the time, right? I prefer to use it, but yeah, this is so I just decided, you know what, we'll start off these replays with this replay where it just shows the more average side of it. So it's the more average side of the replay where you're not just getting one bombed by Artie, because it's just as much fun to watch getting one bomb by Artie as it is to play it. We all know what it looks like to play a big super heavy, get an open map, and have artillery rain hell on you. You do 300 damage and just die, right? That happens. You've got to expect that is going to happen to you a couple of times at least while playing the tank, maybe more, right? I'm not going to cover that one. I'm not going to like pull the wool over your eyes on that one. It happens. It will always happen. Artillery will happen, and it will end your day, and it won't be very pleasant. But this was when you're actually allowed to get on with it. This was the more average game that generally I had, where you could sort of get a bit stuck into the fight, but you're just a little bit too slow to carry on and have that big fun game that you probably could have had in any other tank, realistically. So we're going into the town on Highway, which is exactly where we want to be because it's fighting in close quarters combat. You can get derping, have general fun. This King Tiger's been caught out. We managed to derp his tracks off, which is given his assistance when people pen him. We're hitting his tracks off for 280 something, and then we're also getting assistance off it, which is delightful. We were just looking for the shot on the Oho as he poked out, but he pulled back. But this, like I said, this King Tiger's still sat there, so we derp the shot underneath him for 321, track him in place, and we get the assistance as the IS-3 finishes him off. Now there's the Oho in town, and there's the T-54E2. We're up to 1800 damage because we got a shot on the Oni when he was crossing, the Oho when he was crossing, and we managed to get all the damage on that King Tiger. So we're just going after the T-54E2 now. He is mightily alone with this Oho sort of hiding away, and the rest of their team is on the opposite flank. So as we come around the corner, aiming for the shot underneath him, we end up slapping his tracks for 360. He pens us once, but then only tracks us with the second shot. Someone else gets a big shot into him. And I'm just looking at it like, can I get any more damage on to him? I couldn't really use the multi-weapon guns against him because I wouldn't have penned him, but we do manage to slap the shot in to finish off that T-54E2. And as you see, this derp gun reloads really quickly, which is really nice. It'd be nice if it used vert stabs, but I suppose that's possibly the trade-off for the bad accuracy, or for the quicker reload, sorry. And we managed to shut down the Oho. And that's the end of our game. Pretty much, because the rest of the enemy team is on the opposite flank, and we are too slow, and it's another 3 minutes of driving to try and get anywhere near them that we just don't. So I'm just going to basically chop it and get us to the end screen so that we don't have to witness a literal 3 minutes of driving with no success. That's part of the frustration of the Japanese heavies when you are in a slow tank generally. When you do get past the action and there's more cracking off somewhere else on the map, you just generally can't get there, and it's so frustrating. But we finished the game with 1400 base XP, 2.6k damage, and 1200 assistance. That generally was, outside of the artillery one-shot one-bombs, or the games where you literally fire your gun like once and the artillery just hounds you consistently. That was the more average game that I managed to get in the tank when you could actually fight, generally. So we're on to the second replay, and the second replay, and by the way, this is the second replay of another 4. I wanted to give you a good comprehensive few replays. The more average game, like the one you've just seen, 2 games in the 10cm, and then 2 games with the derp, where you can have some great fun derp memes. And we're using the 10cm gun in this one, same as we will do in the next replay. Because I wanted to show the 10cm gun off, like I say, I think this gun is probably the best gun on the tank, because it's really, really good. As you're seeing with the food boost, 6.6 second reload for 330 alpha at tier 8 is solid. It's just you have to aim and pen things. It's the downside. So 215 pen is fine on the AP round, but for the tanks that we're fighting now, it's not good enough. We need the 253 pen APCR so that we can fight these tier 10 heavies, because we are bottom tier. And that's the other thing about this replay, is that you are going to see what this tank handles with its armor against these tier 10s. So right now I'm trying to get shots into the lower plate of the 705A, and it's just not going in. We're just bouncing every time. What I didn't realise is the 705A's lower plate, well, what I forgot at the time anyway, is that 705A's lower plate is actually more likely to be penned with about 260 pen. So my premium AP, my premium round, isn't actually really good enough to go through his lower plate consistently, if at all. Maybe if I high roll the pen, I'll get that shell in. So I'm just bouncing off that guy repeatedly. If I had the derp gun, obviously I wouldn't have shot him as much as I've just done, but if I had the derp gun here, I would have probably done about 600 damage. And this is where the derp gun could be so much better, because I can just poke out, go derp, pull, run away, right? And that's say, you know, I will have done damage. But for one of the situations you're going to see coming up, this gun was definitely better. So unfortunately we end up ricocheting off the lower plate of the E75, or just off his far side. But he's still sitting there, we slap a shot in. He's actually stock, which is great for us, because he's only got 200 and some, I think 230 odd pen. 226 pen maybe. So he's going to struggle to pen us, which is fine. We get a shot into the drive wheel of the IS-7, track him in place. We're up to 700 damage now with two pens, which is decent. And we're just watching what's going off, because we are outnumbered in this town. We're not in a good place with this IS-4. And I'm just trying to watch the Conqueror, see if he pokes out, just to cover the IS-4, so he, you know, we could possibly make him a one-shot for him. He does poke out, we slap the shot in, the IS-4 finishes him off. We kept that guy covered and, well, kept his gun in the game, essentially, or kept him in the game for a bit longer, sorry. So I'm poking around this corner trying to find the E75, but they're just not there. And it's like, has he moved over across here? Where is he? Nope. Not spotted him, not seen him. I'm detected. It's like, what is going on? It's probably, actually, thinking about it now, it's probably the wheelie boy that we shot at earlier on. No, the wheelie boy's dead. I have no idea how we were spotted and didn't detect there. That was a weird one. But then we get hit by the 75, it pokes around the corner, bounces, like I say, 230 pen, is just not penning our frontal armour. The boobies are the weak spot on this tank, so if you are shooting this thing and you come against the Orochi, shoot for the droids, because you will pen the droids easier than you will pen the front or the turret. So, we're against the T-57 Heavy, who is spamming heat. He pens us once, and it's like, oh god, this is awkward. We go for the turret shot. This is where this gun is going to be so much better for us. He pens us again, and it's like, oh no. He then pens us again, I think he's going to finish us off, but clearly, he's reloading. So what must have happened is he's already fired one of his shots, and this is where this gun is better than the derp gun, because now we can just DPM this guy. Obviously, he's going to reload very, very quickly. But, like I say, you know, if we had the derp gun, we would have shot him twice by now. We're taking 600 hit points, whereas we've actually taken most of his health. He actually ends up bouncing his standard rounds, which he'd switched to, off of our lower plate, which is, again, where the armour comes into play. The armour on this tank is solid. Off of the lower plate and the upper plate, he ended up bouncing the standard rounds with 250 odd pen. And that's where I say the armour on this tank is consistently solid. And we managed to survive and kill that T-57 Heavy. And I'll say that's where this gun is better. It's more consistent, because we did manage to do a solid amount of damage. Then we bounced the 705A, which again has got 260 odd pen. Bounced off our upper plate. I'm just saying, the armour is really solid as long as they don't fire premium like the E75 was first. Not the E75, the T-57 Heavy was first. We get a drive wheel shot into the E75, but I'm thinking, oh god, that 705A is coming for us. I've got to back up. And the IS-7 was sitting and waiting for us on our flank. And unfortunately, he shuts us down. But we do come third on a loss. Finished with 1 kill, 3.8k damage, third class, 1,000 base XP on a loss. Like I say, we came third on the MVP screen in a loss with this 10cm gun, which is great, really. And it's where the 10cm is better. The T57 Heavy section was the perfect example. Because with the derp gun, we'd have shot that T57 Heavy twice, maybe. To be honest, we'd have shot him when he first came after us with this clip, and then we would have basically got another shot off, and he would have been reloaded, and we would have been dead. There would have been no doubts about it. We wouldn't have been able to take the 1600 odd hit points he had off of him. We'd have probably done 900 max. So that was where the consistency of this gun is far better. But when we were fighting things like the 705A, and you're seeing at the start where we were bouncing off that 705A a lot, and we had to sit and aim and make sure the reticle was fully bloomed in, that's where the derp gun is better, because we would have done, 250, 300 damage to that guy shooting his tracks off. And we wouldn't have had to sit around aiming, we wouldn't have had to sit around waiting, we could have just keep popping out derping. It's choice, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't like derp guns, and there's a lot of people that do like derp guns. If you like derp guns, you're going to pick the derp gun. If you don't like derp guns, you're going to pick the more consistent gun on this 100mm. And trust me, this 10cm gun is great. And I'm not going to doubt that. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to give you the biased view of never use it, because derp gun is life. Derp is love, derp is life. Derp is love, derp is life. But this 10cm gun is fantastic. Depends on you for whether you'll have more fun with this gun or with the derp gun, and you can have fun derping things, right? So my thing here is, if I've got the derp gun, I probably could have one-shot that T25/2 or the Leo, and just been cackling away as we maniacally killed 2 tier 7s. But we are, going to use this gun, and again, this is probably where it's... I mean, if we'd had that ass shot on the Skoda T56 with the derp gun, we'd have penned him for 900. But this is where this gun with this DPM is great, because we can keep slapping shots in. Now, I was going for his drive wheel there to keep him pinned, and I ended up flinching because I saw him repair, and I thought he was going to lurch forward. So I ended up flinching to the right, and I didn't actually end up firing, which meant I missed out on any extra damage on that Skoda T56, sorry. We try and get a shot on the Leo on the move, but unfortunately don't hit it. We're just going to charge forward and aim for this IS-3, so we can get to the little spot where the IS-3 is, and use that ridgeline to protect us from anyone that's camping at F0 or along the 0 line. Because it keeps us safe, and then from that ridgeline we can use the ridgeline to stay safe, and then if they get spotted, pop shots at them. I'm going for a blind shot to see if I can hit anything that might be camping over there, but we don't hit it. Now we're going to be reloading time. We're going to get somewhere close to this IS-3 to start popping the shots in. And with 215 pen, the IS-3, as long as we aim properly, we're going to pen the IS-3. We just got to make sure that we avoid the tip of the pike nose, essentially, and shoot the flatter parts. Now, I do use the multi-weapon system there. It's never going to happen. Now, when I was shooting at that Skoda T56 as well, it was one thing, you've got to get used to the fact that you have the multi-weapon system. Because when I was shooting at that Skoda T56's side, I could have quite easily used the multi-weapon system and started spamming him with shots from that. But I didn't, and it is what it is. We used the multi-weapon system, and this is where there's a slight bug. I say a slight, it's quite a large bug with the multi-weapon system. That sometimes your extra turret, if you're pointing too far with the multi-weapon turret, for some reason, it randomly points to the far side of where it could be. And then the reticle, for some reason, does exactly what you've just seen, where it blooms massive. I don't get it, generally, but it's a bug, so just be aware of that. If you're using the far extremes of your limits of the left-hand turret, the right-hand turret, when you switch to that, is probably going to end up pointing in the opposite direction, and it'll disorientate you and, for some reason, destroy your reticle. So up to 3.5k damage. We get a nice shot into the CS52 Lease. I was hoping to track it in place so it was ready to be able to shut that guy down, but unfortunately it doesn't do that. We get another shot into the Indian Panzer, which is nice, and we're going to switch to the multi-weapon system to see if we could use it. But unfortunately, he ended up getting tracked. Which actually swung him towards us, which meant that we couldn't actually pen him with the multi-weapon system. And now they're in our cap, which is a problem, but we're already in their cap. We know where the 52 lease is. We're just going to try and get as quickly as possible this way, try and get shots at the 52 lease. But unfortunately, we're not going to get the opportunity to get any more shots off because we cap ourselves. But we finished the game with a nice total, again showing the consistency of the 10cm gun, how solid this DPM is. Finished with a victory, 0 kills because we didn't get to kill anything, but 4.1k damage, high caliber, second class, Confederate medal, 1321 base XP. Again, a nice game for the 10cm gun. But now we're on to the derp gun, and this is where these are the fun games you can have with this tank, with the derp gun. And we're on Fleetville Ridge. Top tier, which is mostly where you're going to have, let's be real, with this tank, just like every tier 8 tank, to be fair, you're going to have the most fun in this tank when you are top tier. Because most things are going to struggle with your armor, and that's where the strength of the armor comes in, unless they press A for a lot of the tier 8 heavies, but still they will not reliably pen you. You can derp away, and you can do bigger damage with the derp gun. There's more things to pen, and it's just a fun time. Like I say, you have to get to the fight though, because it is big, lumbering, and slow. And I will make no, I won't mince my words on that. If you don't like Japanese heavies and you don't like big, slow, lumbering heavy tanks, oh, goodbye, pest. Sorry, you've always got to point out when you derp a pest. Pest control at your service. Anyway, yeah. So if you don't like big, fat, slow heavies that rely on armor that can so easily be outdone by premium rounds, you're not going to have fun with this tank. And it is an arty magnet, so you just got to be aware of that. So we're fighting this hammer, and it's a little bit disorientating, but we are using the multi-weapon system to spam the rounds in, and we finish them off with the derp gun. When you're coming against tanks where you know they've only got like 100mm of armor, like Tiger tanks, and you can use the multi-weapon system, you can absolutely trash them, because you derp them for like 300-400, and then you just start spamming in rounds consistently with the multi-weapon system, and you're constantly doing like bang 50 50 50 derp 50 50 50 derp. You know, it's really useful in that way. And now we've got these guys in front of us. I'm a bit concerned about what's going on behind us because there's 2 heavy tanks in behind, so I just need to make sure that I hit my shots to get as many hit points off of these guys as possible. We managed to block 2.1k so far, which is nice. 2k damage. Because these guys are at our front, they're really kind of struggling to pen us. And they're starting to run away from us. Unfortunately, misfire there. I just ended up missing the IRL. It was a poor shot to take, and we ended up missing him. It's one that we didn't want to miss because we do have tank coming in behind us. We slap a shot into the side of the 53 TP, who was being blocked in front there by the ARL. Again, all hit points off. This Tiger 1 is starting to come up behind us, and I'm like, I don't want to turn. It's going to take me too long to turn. I'm kind of hoping the T28 prototype will turn around and start dealing with that guy so that he won't start shooting us. He seems to be turning around to deal with it, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is focus on these guys in front and make sure that they don't come round and start harassing my T28 while he deals with the Tiger. Because the T28 prototype should deal with the Tiger 1 pretty damn easily. But now we shut down the 53 TP. He is gone. The IS-3 seems to have left. This is 40 TP, and this is again where we're just going to use the multi-weapon system. And while we're still reloading, we're just going to start throwing in the rounds with this multi-weapon system, and he's gone. And we went past the 15 centimeter cannon, so we used the 2 shots from the multi-weapon 47mm, and then pen the ARL in the side of the turret with the derp gun, and finish off what was a pretty intense brawl at one point. With 3.6k blocked, the armor worked really, really well. We only lost 650, well, 600 and a bit hit points. Did 4.3k damage because we just derped away, and we used the multi-weapon system where we could against the lowly armored targets. There's only 1 heavy tank left. He's being swarmed by our friends. It was the IS-3 that ran away from us. And we finished the game with a very nice total for the Orochi Oni with the derp gun. We finished with the epic victory, 4 kills, 4.3k damage, 3.6k blocked, 143,000 credits made, ace tanker, high caliber, steel wall, 1804 base XP. Like I said, nice game for the Orochi. And you can have a lot of fun with the Orochi in situations like that. And I mean, this is a tank that when you get those top tier matchups where there's not artillery, or where artillery, like there was artillery in that game, but where artillery doesn't stare at you, and you get to face tanks of your own tier, you're going to start to dominate them because the armor is solid. I want to get that point across to you. The armor on this tank is solid until people start firing premium rounds. And that's just the same as the Oho. Because the Oho is the same. That tank is another one, since it got buffed and had its armor buffed up, where when you're facing same tier tanks, they are really going to struggle to pen you. If they have 260 premium rounds, 270 premium, they're going to start to be able to pen you. But if you're angling, they might still struggle. And you, with a derp gun, won't particularly struggle yourself, because you'll just be derping them consistently for like 200-300 damage. And if you use the 10cm gun, you're going to do a good amount of damage with good DPM. The problem is, you are fat, you are slow. So you are very... There's a lot of games where games will probably pass you by, number one. Number two, you're probably just going to struggle to get to the battle. And if you get to the battle, you might fight, like in the first replay you saw, you'll end up fighting for 2 minutes after a minute and a half of driving, and then have to drive for another 3 minutes in the game and not see another tank, and the game ends. You just got to be wary of that. It's kind of like you've got to know what you're getting from driving a big, fat, slow tank. So, saying that, we're on the final game. And we're using the 15cm again, and we're on Lakeville. There is no artillery, which means the Lakeville Road, Valley, was perfect place for my Oni. We're top tier. I'm doing this because I'm pretty confident my armor is going to hold up really well, and we can just keep throwing these HE shells at people. I see the Dreadnought at the back. The Dreadnought is a danger. 250 heat pen. It's going to hurt if it pens. If he hits the droids, like I say, he's probably going to pen. If he hits anywhere else, he's not going to pen. If I was that Dreadnought, to be honest, I would be firing HE at us. And we're just going to keep poking over and popping shots where we can. So the T-28 HTC pops up behind where the Dreadnought is. We get a nice big fat shell into him for 217. Unfortunately, Randy ends up getting shut down because he had the slightly awkward side for the gun depression, because you're actually better to angle and shoot over the right-hand side of the turrets because you get a little bit more gun depression a little bit easier, whereas the side that Randy was on, they were getting easy shots at his boobies because he has big, juicy boobies. That's Randy. And he wasn't able to quite get the gun depression properly to be able to get shots at them and do effective damage. Because obviously, I'm going to be derping this T-32, but if I shoot him in the face, right into the gun manlet, I'm not going to do any damage. If I shoot just below the gun manlet, like you saw there, we're going to do 300 damage. But we've got to be able to get the gun depression to do it. And like I said, this is the perfect spot to be able to do it. So we're just trying to derp away. We're up to 2.9k blocked. I was looking for a shot at the Dreadnought, but he does pull out. It's like, hello, Mr. Dreadnought, thank you for that. Aiming for underneath the gun into the turret there, because we could just about pen that guy if we hit that spot. But unfortunately, we didn't. So he's still lurking about at the back. And yeah, this is the perfect situation, as you see. And we're trying our best to keep getting shots out. We get another shot into the Bellerophon there. And it's just about pulling forward, pulling back. Simple. This is the simple stuff. This is the simple life of Oni. Pull forward, derp, bounce, pull back. Rinse and repeat. And it's just going to have a great time. And if you can, especially with the armor buffs that they gave it, you know, sort of the buffs that it has compared to the standard Oni, this tank is great at holding a choke point like this, because you can bounce a good amount of shots. You don't have to poke out and aim for too long to do damage. You just pull forward and derp them, and damage comes your way. So we pull forward, get a shot into the T-32. Unfortunately, the ISU-152 pulled forward. He got a little bit impatient, and he got shut down, but it was enough attention for us to pull forward and get a shot into that T-32. And it's just slow and steady wins the race. We don't want to rush this too much. If we rush this, we're going to make a mistake. We're going to pull forward. We're probably going to lose most of our hit points. We are coming up behind them. All 5 tanks have been spotted in this valley, so we know where everyone is. And again, it's just about taking our time. So Bellerophon's there, so we pop a shot into the Bellerophon. We'll lose a little bit of hit points. Let's say we've got hit points to play with, but we're still bouncing them because we're on top of this ridgeline. Our armor is starting to behave, but this T-32 starts penning me, and it's like, leave me alone, T-32. We get a big shot into the Bellerophon there because we ended up going below his turret and above his spaced armor. Ended up doing like 369 damage to him, which is great. The T32 Penders again, I was just having a look to see where he penders, which he did penders in the boobies. So we're just going to come over, get a shot into the drive wheel of the ISM, tracks him in place, gives us nearly 300 damage. And now we're just going to plow forward and hopefully get forward to maybe get another kill. But unfortunately, we don't quite get it. But we do finish the game with 4.4k blocked, 4.8k damage, because just derp, 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 derp is love, derp is life. The victory, top on the team, 2 kills, nearly 1900 base XP. Like, it's what it does on the... It says what it does on the tin. Got the saying there. Does what it says on the tin. It's a Japanese heavy, it's big, it's slow, it does some serious damage with its derp gun, it can be fun. You just got to bear in mind that you are slow and you are an anti-magnet, and premium rounds negate your armour. But it can be okay. So as always everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!